In the back row of the old movie theater in our small Ohio town, the credits rolled for the romantic comedy we had chosen for what was supposed to be a quiet date night. Jordan slowly slid from his seat and got down on one knee in the narrow space, his eyes locked on mine with a mix of hope and nervousness that made my chest tighten. He opened a small velvet box revealing a simple silver band that caught the faint light from the screen and whispered the words that would change everything. "Ryan, these past 2 years have shown me what real love feels like. Will you marry me?" My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear the fading music. Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the quiet from a few rows ahead. "Ryan, is that you?" It was my father. He had come with my uncle for a rare guy's night out, something I never expected. His eyes widened as he took in the scene, Jordan on his knee, the open ring box, and the two of us tucked away in the back row like we belonged there together. The theater lights began to rise and the murmur of voices grew louder as people turned to look. My father stood up, his face shifting from confusion to shock and then to raw anger in seconds. "What in God's name is going on here?" he demanded, his voice carrying across the nearly empty auditorium. Jordan rose quickly, closing the box, but it was too late. The damage was done in one heartbeat. My carefully hidden life had spilled into the open in the worst possible way. We were asked to leave by the theater manager to avoid any further scene. Outside in the cold parking lot, under the harsh glow of streetlights, my father and uncle confronted us. My dad pointed a shaking finger at Jordan. "You stay away from my son. This is not happening. Not in my family." Jordan tried to speak calmly. "Mr. Thompson, I love Ryan. This is not a game or a phase. We are serious about each other." But my father cut him off. "Love? This is sin, plain and simple. Ryan, you have been lying to your mother, to your sister, to the whole church. How long has this been going on?" I stood there frozen, the ring box still burning a hole in my memory. "Years, Dad. Since college. I met Jordan in literature class and everything changed. I tried to fight it, but I couldn't." The words felt both freeing and terrifying as they left my mouth. My uncle shook his head in disgust. "Your mother is going to be heartbroken. Think about what this does to the family name, the church community, everything we built." The drive to Jordan's apartment was silent at first. He kept one hand on the wheel and the other reaching for mine when he could. "I should not have proposed there," he said quietly. "I thought the back row would be private, romantic even. I wanted it to be special for us." I squeezed his hand. "It is not your fault. It was always going to come out someday. I just never imagined it like this." His apartment was small but warm, a one-bedroom he shared with a roommate who was out of town. We sat on the couch and the weight of the night settled over us. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Messages from my sister Emily asking where I was. Then the call from my mother. Her voice cracked the moment I answered. "Ryan, your father just told me. Please come home. We can talk about this. It is a mistake, right? A confusion?" "Mom, it is not a mistake," I said, my throat tight. "I love him. Jordan has made me happier than I ever thought possible." But she only cried harder. "The Bible is clear on this. We raised you better. Please do not throw your life away." That night I barely slept. Jordan held me as I stared at the ceiling, replaying every Sunday sermon, every youth group lesson, every prayer my parents had led at the dinner table. I had always tried to be the good son, the one who volunteered at church, helped with the food drives, and planned to marry a nice Christian girl someday. Now that image was shattered and the pieces cut deep. The guilt mixed with the warmth of Jordan's arm around me, creating a storm inside my chest that would not settle. By morning, the messages had multiplied. My father texted that if I did not end this immediately, I was no longer welcome at home and he would stop helping with my college tuition. The financial threat hit hard. I was only a semester away from graduating with a degree in education, but without their support, I had no idea how I would finish. Jordan made coffee and sat beside me. "We will figure it out," he said. "You are not alone anymore." But as I looked at him, I wondered how much we would both have to pay for this love. The confrontation had only just begun and the real battles were still ahead. The next afternoon, I agreed to meet my family at the house. Jordan offered to come with me for support, but I told him it was better if I faced them alone at first. The drive back to the suburban neighborhood where I grew up felt longer than usual. The familiar streets lined with American flags and well-kept lawns now seemed hostile. When I walked through the front door, the tension was thick enough to choke on. My mother sat at the kitchen table with red eyes. My sister Emily stood beside her arms crossed. My father paced the living room, refusing to sit. "You have embarrassed this family," my father started the moment I closed the door. "The pastor already called. Word is spreading, Ryan. What were you thinking kissing a man in public like that?" "It was not a kiss," I said quietly. "He proposed." And I was about to say yes. My mother gasped, covering her mouth. "Proposed? Marriage? Ryan, you cannot be serious. This goes against everything we believe. God has a plan for you, a wife, children, a Christian home." I sat down across from them, my hands shaking. I have tried to ignore it for years. I dated girls in high school because that is what everyone expected. But it never felt right. With Jordan it does. He sees me, the real me. Emily shook her head. "What about us? I looked up to you. Now kids at school are going to ask questions." I felt the guilt twist harder. I never wanted to hurt any of you, but hiding was destroying me inside. The argument stretched for hours. My father quoted scripture, his voice rising. "Leviticus is clear. Corinthians 2. This is not love, it is rebellion." My mother pleaded with tears. "We can get you counseling. There are programs that help with this." The thought of conversion therapy made my stomach turn. "No, Mom. I will not do that. This is who I am." The room fell into a painful silence, broken only by my sister's quiet sobs. As the sun set, I left the house with a bag of clothes and the knowledge that the door might not open for me again the same way. Jordan picked me up at the end of the block. "How did it go?" he asked gently. "About as bad as expected," I replied. "They want me to choose them or you." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I know that pain. When I came out, my dad left the family. Mom struggled for years. But we made it through. You will too." That night, as we lay in his bed, I let the memories flood in. I remembered the first day I met Jordan in the lecture hall. He sat next to me and made a quiet joke about the professor's outdated reading list. His smile was easy and his laugh genuine. Over weeks, our study sessions turned into long talks about books, life, dreams. He was open about being gay while I danced around the topic, terrified of what admitting it would mean. One rainy afternoon in the campus library, he had reached across the table and taken my hand. "You do not have to hide with me," he said. The simple touch had felt like coming home. Now that memory clashed with the pain in my mother's eyes and the anger in my father's voice. I was forced to choose between the family that raised me and the man who made me feel whole. The moral weight pressed down. Was loving Jordan a sin that would cost me heaven, or was denying it the greater betrayal of the heart God gave me? The questions kept me awake long after Jordan had fallen asleep. Word traveled fast in our tight-knit town. By the end of the week, I had lost count of the stares at the grocery store and the sudden silence when I entered the coffee shop where I used to study. My part-time job at the local bookstore became unbearable when regular customers stopped speaking to me. The worst came when my best friend since childhood, Tyler, showed up at Jordan's apartment unannounced. "I thought you would tell me first," he said, standing in the doorway, his face flushed. "I have known you since we were kids, Ryan. I kept your secret when you hinted at it in high school. And now this?" I invited him in, confused by his tone. "Tyler," I was scared. I did not know how to say it. He sat down, but his eyes avoided mine. "The pastor called me. He said your dad asked the church to pray for you, to help you see the light." I told him everything I knew, "Ryan, that you have been seeing this guy for years. Maybe it will save your soul." The betrayal hit like a slap. "Tyler, you promised. When I first confided in you years ago, you swore you would never tell." He shrugged. "That was before it got serious. Before you threw your family away for him." Jordan stepped in, his voice steady. "This is not helping." Tyler stood up. "You are ruining his life. The church is talking about asking your family to step down from leadership roles. The youth group is confused. All because of this. After Tyler left, I sat on the couch numb. Jordan rubbed my back. People like that are scared of what they do not understand. But it still hurts, I said. Tyler was like a brother. Now even my oldest friend sees me as broken. The social pressure mounted. My sister texted that kids at her school were whispering about our family. My mother stopped answering my calls. The isolation grew, and with it the doubt. Every time I looked at Jordan I felt joy, but every silent phone and cold glance reminded me of the price. Jordan shared more of his own story that night. After his father left, he and his mom moved around a lot. He learned early that love sometimes means losing people. But it also means finding new ones who stay. His words gave me strength, but the internal battle raged. I questioned my faith, wondering if God could still love me if my family no longer did. The days blurred into a tense rhythm of classes, job shifts, and quiet evenings with Jordan where we talked about the future we wanted but feared we might never have. 2 weeks after the proposal, I made the hardest decision yet. I officially moved in with Jordan full-time. The college financial aid office confirmed that without my parents' support I would need loans and more hours at work to finish my degree. Jordan helped me pack the last of my things from a storage unit my uncle had grudgingly allowed me to use. As we drove away from the house I had grown up in, I glanced back one last time. My mother stood in the window watching, but she did not wave. The sacrifice felt enormous. I had given up the safety net, the approval, the easy path. Jordan celebrated the move with a home-cooked meal, but I could see the worry in his eyes too. "I do not want you to regret this," he said over dinner. "I do not," he replied, but the truth was more complicated. Late at night, the doubts crept in. Had I been selfish? Was my happiness worth the pain I caused my sister, who now avoided family gatherings because of the tension? Jordan opened up more about his past. His father had left when Jordan came out at 16. The man had called it a choice and walked away, leaving Jordan and his mother to struggle financially and emotionally. "I swore I would never put anyone through that," Jordan said. "But here we are." I took his hand. "You did not force me. I chose this." Still, the guilt lingered for both of us. At school, a professor pulled me aside after class. "I heard about your situation. If you need any extensions or resources, the counseling center has support for LGBT students." The kindness helped, but it also highlighted how my private life had become public property. I threw myself into studying, determined to graduate on time despite the added stress of bills and emotional exhaustion. One evening my sister showed up at the apartment unexpectedly. Emily stood on the doorstep looking smaller than usual. "Mom misses you," she said. "Dad is still angry, but he has not stopped praying for you." I invited her in and we talked for hours. She admitted she was scared for me, scared of what people said at church. But she also said she saw how happy I looked when I spoke about Jordan. "It is not fair that you have to choose," she whispered before leaving. That conversation planted a small seed of hope, but the road remained rocky. The breaking point came at a family dinner my mother insisted on hosting to try to bridge the gap. I arrived with Jordan by my side for the first time. The table was set as always, but the atmosphere was ice cold. My father barely looked at us. The pastor had been invited too, a surprise that made my stomach drop. After the meal, the conversation turned pointed. The pastor leaned forward. "Ryan, we love you enough to speak truth. This relationship is leading you down a dangerous path. Repent and return to the fold." I felt the old fear rise, but something stronger pushed back. "I have prayed about this," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I have read the same verses you have. But I also feel God's love when I am with Jordan. It is not rebellion. It is honesty." My father slammed his hand on the table. "Honesty? You are throwing away your salvation for lust." Jordan spoke up calmly. "With all respect, sir, it is not lust. It is commitment. I want to build a life with your son." The argument escalated. Accusations flew. Tears from my mother. My sister tried to mediate, but the damage was deep. When we left that night, I knew the bridge had burned further. In the car, Jordan was quiet. "You were brave," he said finally. "But the cost is real. I nodded, feeling both empowered and devastated. That night, I had a long talk with God in my own way, asking for guidance. The awakening came slowly. I realized that love in its truest form could not be the sin they described. The real sin might have been living a lie for so long. Months passed and the new normal settled in. I graduated with honors thanks to extra shifts and loans. Jordan and I found a small place of our own. My mother occasionally texted, checking in, though conversations remained careful. My father stayed distant but sent a card on my birthday without a return address. The community prejudice softened in some corners as people saw us living quietly and kindly. Tyler never apologized, but I let the friendship go, choosing peace over bitterness. The journey taught me the true weight of decisions. I had lost financial ease and family harmony, but gained a deeper understanding of myself and the courage to live openly. Jordan proposed again, this time in our living room with just the two of us. I said yes without hesitation. As we planned a simple future, I often reflected on the path that brought us here. The confrontations, the betrayals, the sacrifices, and the slow awakening to my own truth had reshaped me. In the end, was standing up for my love the right choice, even if it meant breaking my family apart? Or should I have stayed silent to keep the peace?